are go for liftoff in T minus 30.
Hit the record button.
Gosh, that's swell.
Hello, everybody. This is Italo from Italo's Backpack Radio. And while we wait for our guest to call in, he's going to be calling in a few seconds. But so Steven Vlasak is going to be calling me because we both love the show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And this show, you probably have seen all the billboards everywhere. Now, if you live in Hollywood, like I do, or LA. So basically, I just wanted to talk about the show, which is I'm in the second season, and so is Steven. So the good thing is that we're both in the same boat. We haven't finished watching all the episodes yet, and I think he's right here. Let me bring him on the line. Hold on. Hi, Steven.
Hey there.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
It is. It's very windy, but yeah, it's actually. We can't complain. We're in Hollywood. We have good weather. 360 days of the year is good weather, so you can't complain, right? So yeah, I was telling the audience that Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. We both have an inclination for the show, and I was telling them that both you and I wanted to talk about it because it's not only a great piece of history, kind of. If you take the comedians that were back in the days in the 50s, in particularly Lenny Bruce and other comedians that got in trouble, not only for doing obscenities, quote unquote obscenities, like talking about private parts and talking about the politics and everything that was going on in those days, but just having the women portion of the story, which is basically that's where the whole show is based on. Mrs. Maisel, or Mitch is her name. And she wants to become a comedian because she's trapped in this, like everybody in the 50s, I guess, housewife, and she's, well-to-do, and she's married, and, what else is there to do, right? But no, she has
the show. Yeah, we both have such a love for this show. I mean, we're not alone, obviously, since this thing keeps winning Emmys and has, millions of viewers. But it's just so fun and so well done on just every level. I mean, the writing, the acting, the look of it is so fun, and just recreating that era. Just seeing what it was like in Greenwich Village. Then and them weaving Lenny Bruce in is a great kind of mirror to what Midge just telling the jokes to tell the truth is kind of something new, and that one episode where she meets Jane Lynch, who is kind of I guess a traditional, she's sort of playing a character, like she's kind of the old kind of comedy rather than, somebody like Mort Saul who Susie says she likes. There's so many great references and so much great contrast in there.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, we're just both fans, aren't we?
Yeah. And actually, before we continue, I wanted to let people know that are listening. We are going to be spoiling the show for you guys. We haven't been caught up to season 3. So for those that have seen season 1 and 2, you're good because we haven't even seen season 3. If you have not seen anything, then I recommend that you stop this podcast Go back to it's on Prime. It's on Prime. Yeah, Amazon Prime, I think. Yeah, and so go to Prime, watch it, and then come back to the podcast. But yeah, so going back to the show, it's not only is it well written and it looks fantastic. The way they did the whole costumes and the sets and the look of the 50s, but also the writing. To me, the most fascinating part is the writing, and the comedy is so good in every sense, right? But also seeing the progress between the comedy back in those days to what we have today is so totally. I mean, if anybody from today's, if anybody, all the comedians that are famous now were to go back to the 50s, trust me, they will be arrested, they will be blacklisted, they would not be able to perform and say any of those things that they're saying today, because back in those days it was so taboo to do anything, and also was frowned upon to be a female comedian. It was unheard of, and he was like, "What? What are you doing up there?" It's like, and they will be very, I don't know, looked down. Like her mother, the mother character is so, she's so bothered by it. She's so she doesn't even want to see her on stage because she's embarrassed. She's like, "I don't want to see you," and she starts getting drink after drink after drink, and she wants to like tune her out. And Mitch wants her approval, kind of like, "Hey mom, I'm gonna be on stage, and I'm finally making it. I'm in this was she in Florida or Vegas? I think it was in Florida somewhere." There was a scene where she's trying to get her parents to come see her show and her routine, and she's finally making it, right? But they just don't want to accept that their daughter wants to be a comedian.
Yeah, it's a great contrast, and of course the actors. Yeah, and they're nuanced. What's great about this show? Yet another thing that's great about this show is how nuanced all the characters are. So mom and dad aren't black or white. We can definitely see their side of things. But yeah, I mean, sort of the big arc is Midge, finding herself and her voice. And, I mean, it's great that they've got Lenny Bruce in the very first episode getting arrested. He ends up almost being a muse to her a bit, encouraging her to go for it. But, yeah, he was getting, you would say just words on stage would get you arrested. That was illegal. So that's pretty wild to think about that.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that having Lenny Bruce and many other comedians and artists that just push the boundaries the way they did back in those days. You can talk about the Rat Pack, back in the days too, where they went to Vegas, and I'm thinking of the different artists, right, that push the boundaries to get to where we are now. Because if it wasn't for these people getting arrested and getting in trouble and going against the current, we wouldn't have what we have today, right? We take it for granted that we can just go on stage and say whatever. I was just yesterday. It was funny, yesterday or last night. I was in an open mic, and there were a lot of comedians, right? And every comedian was going off doing jokes about pedophiles. And I'm thinking, like, wow, if this was 1958, first of all, the word pedophile wouldn't exist in the dictionary. They would not know what you're talking about. I'm just so amazed at how much liberty we have, but then we kind of abuse our liberty too. And so it's like, okay, how much freedom do we have? But we have a lot of freedom, right? As far as going on stage and saying whatever's in our mind, But then sometimes it's like, well, you may want to class it up a little bit. But that's just my opinion, right? And I'm just like being a critic. But if I were in the 50s, saying anything like that would be so taboo and so wrong, right? And I'm just thinking how different times are. Well, we're still not there yet. We're still not to the point where we're really free to say anything on stage, and that's another thing.
Well,
but
in society, well, you're right, because I mean, just issues. The show is sort of in the third season. They're closing in on the 60s, and of course, that's a lot of change is brewing. In 58, for 57, when the show starts, the Greenwich Village and the Beatniks, right? That's happening, and then the show is clearly decided to set itself in an era where there's just going to be huge changes, kind of mirroring, what Miriam is going through. So but comedians. But you raise a good point, because comedians, they're the court jester, right? Like, what's their job in society? Like, they say the stuff as a joke that people are afraid to say, or you laugh because you're uncomfortable, or you recognize it. And and Midge, when she gets on the stage in the first episode, she's telling the truth. She's talking about her own life and being a woman then, and that's something new. Yeah, so that's a lot of a lot of fun and a great just great choices on for Amy Sherman Palladino.
Right. And speaking of Amy Sherman Palladino, so she's basically the writer. She wrote this. Did she write an entire show, or was it just created by her? I don't know what it means.
She's the everything. Her and her partner, her husband Dan Palladino. But no, she's the creator. She wrote the pilot. Yeah, the pilot is just her. She wrote the pilot. And then they direct most of the episodes as well. So they're running the. They call them showrunners. So yeah, they're running the show.
Okay. By the way, whoever's listening, she also created Gilmore Girls. It was also created by her. And Bunheads, I never heard of that show, but Bunheads and Gilmore Girls, and now she's getting attention on Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And she deserves all the credit. She's such an amazing cast too. From what's her name? Mitch, played by Rachel Brosnahan. I'm not saying it correctly. Anyways, Brosnahan. She plays the main character of Brosnahan. Yeah. There, I knew I wasn't saying it right. Then Alex Borstein, or I don't know if it's Borstein or Borstein. She plays her. I guess it's safe to say Borstein. She plays she's basically she's not actually an agent yet, but she sees her on stage, and I think she's in the comedy club, right? In the club, and she's just there, and I think she's just booking people.
Manages, she doesn't work at an agency, but she's definitely being Midge's manager. The two of them together are so much fun. And you mentioned Gilmore Girls. Is that a show you saw, Italo? Is that something?
I have not.
You'd watched?
I have not seen it. No, I've heard of it. Of the show, just like many shows that I've heard about, and I just happened to discover them like years later. Like the Good Place. I learned about it recently. And so I'm catching up. And now they have on demand, so I'm like, okay, that's wonderful, because I can just go back to, you know what I mean? You don't have time. Sometimes you don't have time on Tuesday night or Thursday night or whenever to look for it on TV. So that's a great thing about streaming. You can just whenever you have time, whenever you like to see something, because I'm looking for something else, right? If it, besides the movies, which are great. I mean, movies right now are coming back to. I mean, some of them, right? But for the most part, I think TV is coming along just as good or even better than the movies. And so I find myself watching TV shows more than movies now, for some reason. And
I think there's so much good writing now. Plus, there's more shows than ever, and these new streaming services. They're not that new, but Amazon and Netflix and the others. There's just more. Well, there's more shows, but there's also more really good shows. So it's kind of a pretty exciting time for all that right now. Back to Gilmore Girls, what that shares is this really clever dialogue and kind of wise-ass characters, and also I realized as we're talking about a lot of kind of cultural references. So it's a lot of fun. But that obviously that's something you can go back to watch. There was a reboot just a year ago on Netflix. So they did an arc of Gilmore Girls, which I didn't see. So they brought back this, I believe, the same characters, and again, it's the same. Amy Sherman Palladino was the driving force for that. So that kind of,
right.
I don't know if it led to this. I guess it did, just on a business sense. Yeah, they brought that back, and then the Palladinos are in the room. So then they're back at it. So aren't we lucky?
Yeah.
That Mrs. Maisel has.
Well, now that I know I like this show, I like this, Mrs. Maisel. I will certainly look into Gilmore Girls and all the other shows that they've been involved with. But like you said, there's so much content, right? And so it's hard to choose what's next. Because you don't want, binging a TV show is not easy. Like this one is taking me a whole week just to get here, so who knows how long it will take me to finish it.
Yeah. Now, I was intrigued to hear how this kind of came together. Did you know that Amazon basically threw 5 pilots up on their service on Amazon Prime, and people voted on which ones they would like to see as a series?
Mm-hmm. I did not know
and
that.
So that's what got, and then Mrs. Maisel, just from, I'm sure they already saw that it was really good, but they just, like you usually do for a series, they made one pilot episode, and then the public voted, and then they ended up giving them a 2-season order, so they then had the commitment to go ahead and produce the first 2 seasons. Just based on the response to the first episode, which of course is so much fun, and it really does.
It was great.
Establish what you're going to get, right? Like oh yeah, I want to see what happens now. You're talking about spoilers,
sure.
You're not going to tell me like Midge and Joel break up or anything, right? Italo,
Who?
No,
who broke up with who? You're talking about the husband.
No, just
well,
the first
we're spoiling
episode.
everything.
It's such a great. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's
I think it
too.
speaks to people. I think people can see themselves in these characters, so that's a lot of fun.
Right. Well, speaking of the husband too, because there's not only is there comedy, but there's also drama, and so we see, and this is another spoiler, like you were saying, Mitch and her husband. The actor's name is Michael Jonathan Began. He plays the husband character. Joel is the name of Mr. Maisel, basically. That's his name, Joel Maisel. And so, we actually get to see also another side of society that has never heard of the single father role, right? Which is, I just thought everything's so great, right, for me, because it's like, whoever would have thought that there was a single parent who's not the mother, who was responsible for the kids and have the custody of the kids, kind of, sort of. And it's something that nobody would have thought in the 50s. You know what I mean? So that was really cool because I was like, yeah, why not? What a concept, right? To that both parents should be responsible for the kids. And of course, Mitch is so busy with traveling, and season 2 she meets this singer, and she follows him, in tour, and so she doesn't have time for the kids, and she doesn't have time to stop and be an old-fashioned mother and just become her mother. Basically, she doesn't want to become her mother, and so she's like, I'm not staying here. I'm not. I just think that she was ahead of her time, obviously, because now, obviously, that's a different. I don't know. Is there still a stigma about single fathers?
Are there still grandparents raising their kids? I know that's still happening, but probably under a different set of circumstances. But the way the show paints the family, the extended family. Another thing I like is how specifically New York Jewish. It's not generic. The family's Jewish. It's New York. It's the late 50s, and they're really just the level of detail and it's interesting. It's actually just interesting to see what that was like, or at least in that family. And that's another choice that I really admire that they made. We're going to get really specific with this family. We're going to show you exactly what they're like. So beyond the wardrobe and the design of the whole show, which is so impeccable. The really making them specifically Jewish. I mean, New York too is just so fun, and then just recreating it. I mean, again, the club is in Greenwich Village, and you just feel like, wow, this is what it was like then. How exciting, and just to get to watch all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Why do you think the show is so popular? What do you think? Why do you think this has grabbed so many people?
Well, I was about to get there, but that's just my opinion, or my because we are both writers. Steven and I were both writers, and I think as a writer, I actually saw these episodes, and I was fascinated by the writing. Just the writing, the script was so impeccable, so great, so thought out, and the characters were so three-dimensional. And so that's, for me, that grabbed me from the get-go, right? It was the personalities, the different what am I saying? The different mindsets of the characters, right? And everybody has their own personality, and they all have their own flaws and strengths, obviously, and just the development of the characters, because they don't stay the same. Everybody they have a different. Even the parents have another focus on the second season more than they used to. That I saw in the first season was more about the marriage part, but then they goes into the in-laws in the second season, and that they are just as fascinating as the main characters. And so I don't know. I just don't know where it's gonna go on season 3, and I'm glad that I don't know, and I'm just not anticipating anything. I just want to see what they come up with. And now I actually hear that they're doing a season 4 on 2020, so I'm like, well, okay, I'm hooked, right? So, and you can pick it up anytime because the comedy is it's just very witty, and it's so great. And the stars of the show are amazing too. It's like, oh, come on, what's his name? Tony.
Tony Shalhoub. Yeah, I mean, he's
Shalhoub. Oh my God, right? And then what's her name
So
from
fun.
Glee?
Yeah.
I forget her name, but or Kevin Pollak too. He's great. He's in the second season. He's the other. But yeah, every other.
The two dads. The two dads. Yeah, good. Nice casting. Yeah.
Very good casting, right? So, what about you? What drew you to this story, or what the show in general?
It's a good question because something just grabs you, and then you're so thrilled to just be watching it or binging it. Well, I mean, good writing is a good handle, and you kind of defined it. I mean, really interesting characters, and then, but I think a story that, Miz is just such. You really react to her as a person. With her discovering herself and wanting to be her own person. But I do think the era is fascinating, and it's really funny. I mean, I'm thinking of fun.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of several scenes, but it's just there's always this sly, humorous undercurrent to everything. So I mean, I just love that. So yeah, the style, the tone of it, I guess, is a big part of what's really grabbed me. Which ultimately is kind of the voice and the vision of the people creating the show.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's actually for me seeing it as we're in 2019 and seeing how things were in 1958 or going into 1960. I can see how much we have either progressed or we have either went back. So you know what I mean, like in society, like sometimes I admire what happened, what the style of the 50s, and that's one thing I had in mind, like while I was watching it, and I was like, wow, look at how they're dressed and how they're carrying themselves, right? And do I still have you? Hello?
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. It just went very quiet. But no, I just admire the.
That was the sound of me listening to you.
Okay. I just admire that. I kind of miss it. Not. I wasn't in the 50s. I wasn't born in the 50s or 60s, but I just miss how they used to dress. And it's not that we are, we have the liberty of doing it too. I mean, I just met somebody last night, and he was dressed so, he was dressed up. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, why are you dressed like that? Do you come from work, or do you have anything to do afterwards, or what's going on? And he's wearing the bow tie. He's like, no, that's the way I dress, and that's the way I like to carry myself. And I'm like, but that everybody else around us, because we're in a bar, he basically stood out because it's like everybody else is wearing jeans and ripped jeans or shorts and whatever. And it's like, wow, we are the odd ones here, or you are the odd one here, because the way you're dressed, were in the 50s, you would have just fit right in, right? I just think it was amazing how society has changed, right? I don't know.
It is. I was born in the 50s, and I did live in the 60s, so I have some personal experience. Yeah, I'm in the 60s, going in the 60s, I mean, it's such a time of change, I mean, with the hippie thing and all of that, too, which kind of kicked in a few years before me, before, I wasn't in the middle of that, but I was certainly aware of it. Because I think of the 40s. I mean, the 40s was really, everybody, I see pictures of people in the 40s and all the, actually one of my favorite pictures is I have a picture of the 1939 New York World's Fair, which is essentially a theme park that they built. And every guy there is wearing a suit. So it's like if you went to Disneyland, every single guy is wearing a suit, and most of the women are all in dresses, of course. So that's what's changed. Part of the 50s and 60s thing is that everybody, America went to World War II, got a little educated, being in Europe maybe as far as sophistication, and then came back and kind of wanted to live a safe life after World War II. Like let's be conservative, let's not rock the boat. But then because the kids are so secure in all the suburbs, they rebel. It's like you're against whatever the status quo is, then you're against it. So the era that Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is set in is when all the kind of this conservative world is changing because her generation is shaking it up. Lenny Bruce is one of the trailblazers, really. Especially for stand-up comedy. He leads to, you can trace a line from him to the kind of the attitudes now. And probably what you were hearing. Yeah, everybody was trying to be outrageous last night, right? Sounds like the comics you saw last night. They're all they're just trying to grab your attention, right?
Let me just say that I was in West Hollywood last night, right? And there were people wearing onesies. I kid you not, onesies. And I'm like, well, it's great that we can wear a onesie in public. That's great, amazing, right? But at the same time, I'm like, dude, what's your style? Like, I get it. Like, we can do whatever you want. You can be naked if you want. No, well, not almost naked too, right? But to what degree?
Right there.
I don't know. But it's great. I love my freedom of say whatever you want to say, and as long as you don't offend anybody. But if you're a comedian, like last night, they were talking about pedophiles and all that, and it kind of got awkward for the audience because it was like, wait a minute, we shouldn't be joking about it. Should we And the way they deliver it, is the delivery important, or is the message important? What are you trying to do? And in this show, in Mrs. Maisel, what she's trying to do is basically shaking up societies. Like, we are here, women are here. We deserve to be equal, just like men are. We are not all housewives, and we're not all, cut out to be your mother's, idea of what a wife should be. And so I think comedy is very, it should be a tool, right, to shake people up. But to what degree is a question, and I don't know. I'm just thinking too much. Putting too much into it.
Yeah. No, well, comedy. But comedy reflects society, and I think comics. It's kind of they have the jokes they're telling are about the truth of what's going on in society now, and I think it's an important job, and it keeps evolving. And yes, I've been out in the clubs lately, and it certainly is changing. It is more kind of storytelling in a way. Which even Jerry Seinfeld was doing, but it's, I think it's artists and comics' job to almost blaze the trail, to say the stuff people are afraid to say, and even if it's if they're fishing, there's that whole humor of just making somebody uncomfortable, that whole The Office thing, but that's still okay. But if you are feeling that, what's going on? What's that about? I'm wondering what whoever is still listening to this is either hoping we say or is wondering what we'll say. some people have seen the show. Certainly, if they haven't, then of course we're saying watch this show. It's fantastic. And I think with Amazon Prime, you can even do like a 1 month. I don't know this for a fact, but I think you can do like a 1 month free trial. So
yeah,
you can,
actually,
you can sign
I
up
got it for free.
Yeah.
I actually
Okay,
I ordered something. I ordered something on Amazon and I got it for free because of the order. I had placed an order, and I guess it was a Prime order, and I upgraded to Prime for some reason. And that one time that I paid an extra whatever it was, that got me the subscription, and I'm like, what? So I have it for free. But yeah, there's many things like nowadays, you get this or that, and it will give you Prime, and so yeah.
Yeah, if you're
Prime
signed
is,
up. Yeah, I mean it's funny. You get free shipping and a television network.
yeah,
your bundle.
right.
Yeah.
Just like Disney Plus. Disney Plus doing the same thing with I forget if it's AT&T or Sprint, or if you switch to your Verizon, I think it was. Yeah, Verizon. So if you have Verizon, you automatically get Disney Plus, something like that. So I think they're trying to tie in like what services you have already, and they can offer you different things, which I think is okay. I mean, it's cool.
Well,
I wouldn't
they create shows. Yeah, I mean, they like Mrs. Maisel is a tool to get you to sign up for Prime. Like, oh, I want to watch that,
Right.
But anybody who hasn't already, anybody listening who hasn't already figured it out, it's I think you can do like a 1 month free trial and still watch all the shows in that month, So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
but again, isn't it just great that this stuff is out there right now?
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting how it's going back to, and it's going to Hollywood. Like, Netflix, for instance, is coming up with so many amazing movies that are bleeding into Hollywood, and they're scared, but they have noticed. If you notice, like Martin Scorsese has noticed, like, okay, I guess Netflix is the new thing because I think somebody was against it, and I forget who it was. Maybe it was Martin Scorsese or somebody else. And now they notice that people are more going to the streaming services, and then they eventually have their theatrical release. But it's interesting how that's happening right now. Now the society is changing, and you have to adapt. And so, it's a great time for creative people like ourselves. Like, hey, it can happen to you, right?
Yeah, well, and people going to movie theaters hasn't dropped off. There's still. I think younger people. It's more of a date thing. But attendance at movie theaters is fine. I mean, films like The Irishman and the Marriage whatever that Marriage one was, and
Marriage Story.
What's the other? Yeah. And one other. I mean, they were theatrical for like a week, and then you could stream them immediately. But
exactly.
But it's not hurting the business. It's just changing. It's just evolving. And I agree that some things, some big spectacle, you do want to see it on a giant screen. So I just sit closer to my laptop.
Right. Well, and then it's not for. Theater is not for everybody. Movie theaters, I mean, it's not for everybody. Everybody's not in the mood to go and pay whatever it is now, $15, $20 to see a movie and then get popcorn and then get parking. It's so inconvenient nowadays. And sometimes it's just easier to just sit at home and not have any kids around and nobody kicking your seat, and you know what I'm saying? Like, the audiences
watch it
are
on our schedule.
sometimes
watch it
annoying
when we've got the time. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to pause and you want to go get your food or heat up your microwave and hey, sit back and watch Mrs. Maisel. It's amazing, you guys. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it highly. And I don't know. There's so many things,
and
right?
If you have, watch it again.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have to go back like a couple of episodes. Like I had to do it. I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? in the previous season, and okay, now I get the sense of it again. All right, let me go back to the season that I'm on, and I'm actually close to. Are you already finished season 2, right?
Yeah, I devoured that. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not even there yet, but it's fine. I'll catch up, and that's another thing before we go. Well, we only have a couple minutes. Anyways, this will be another part. Once I finish season 3, let's just do another one because there's more topics and that I can talk about. But I only have 3 minutes, so guess what? We don't have time. But once again, Steven, I do want to mention that Steven has written a show called Disrobed, talking about comedy here. You've written a show that has been, now it's in the, it's a monthly thing, isn't it? You still have it monthly?
It is.
Once a month?
It has a once-a-month residency the first Saturday of every month at the Studio C Theater on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. And actually, thank you for mentioning that. We'll say what it's about in a second, but there is more information and tickets available at just disrobedtheplay.com, all one word. But yeah, I've got a show running right now, which is still a comedy. You know, it's a comedy, and it's got that witty dialogue that I love. But of course, then this one in particular, being named Disrobed, has a twist to it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Victor or Italo, yeah. So yeah. This particular one is unique. We're calling it an immersive experience, and not only does the cast end up naked, but the audience is required to be naked as well. So they bring a gym bag and a towel, and they disrobe at the theater, and it's a very interesting shared experience. But yeah, there's more information about it at that website.
This could not have happened in the 50s.
It was, no, it did not. The naturist movement. That's another kind of 60s thing, really, another sort of hippie thing. Although I learned, I was actually asked to write this show. It's actually presented by the Southern California Naturist Association as a way to demystify what they call clothing optional recreation. Ben Franklin thought walking around naked was really healthy. Turns out there have been some famous nudists throughout history. So it was an interesting world to learn about.
Wow. Anyways, we could talk about it for another 20 seconds, but we need to wrap it up.
You already did that podcast.
No, but it's good to read. I'm gonna actually put a link below to the Disrobed the play, and also HollywoodFrench.com or .org, which eventually will end up being there again, or maybe not. But anyway, whatever information we come up with, I'll put it below. And of course, I do want to thank Steven for calling today. It was a great talking about the show, the TV show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And so thank you once again, and we'll talk soon, right?
This was fun.
Cool. All right, I'll leave you guys another day, and have a great day, have a great weekend, or one more day for the weekend to be over. So have a wonderful one, and here's my outgoing song. Didn't see that coming.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Hit the record button.